Oh, hi, it's Michael Johnson. Welcome to the Energy Sketch. Just start rubbing your hands together and feel the energy flow in your hands. Like I like to say, the hands is where we work, where we click, where we use the keyboard, and our communications come out from our hands. So start to feel the energy in your hands as you rub them together. And for today, just get your hands so close together but not touching, and just feel the energy, feel the heat in between them, and imagine that flow between your hands is something that you can increase as you stretch the space between your hands, like it's a sort of like there's sticky dough or something, or like a silly putty or something like that between your hands. Just imagine all of your creative energies are being concentrated and focused in this ball, and just imagine you have this really energetic and hot ball here in between your hands, and then start bouncing it on the ground or bounce it off the wall and then throw it away, and we're ready to start the podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's jump over to the whiteboard and talk about the personal energy management segment of today. So let's imagine you are here in the middle of the whiteboard, and all around you is inspirational energy. And that could be in the form of everything that you see in your visual field right now. There's beauty, there are shapes, there are colors, there are contrasts, everything that you're hearing, everything that you're seeing right now, wherever you are, is beautiful and inspirational potential energy. And I like to imagine that we are really connected to the ground. And that inspirational energy ideally is flowing through us, from the ether through us down to the ground. The problem happens when you start storing up some of this inspirational energy, or non-inspirational energy perhaps, in what I like to think of as sort of like internal capacitors. And a capacitor is something that stores energy, it stores charge. On one side is positive charge, on the other side is negative charge, and that's a capacitor. And then when you close the circuit, bzz, you get a little buzz, you get a discharge of that energy. That energy can be, quite hindering to yourself, quite destructive to yourself. And I like to call this internal emotional energy storage. The faster that we can notice in a neutral way what ticks us off and what causes those little outbursts in us, then the sooner that we can get over them and let them go and return to that really free-flowing, inspirational energy flow from all over. Everything that we see, everything that we experience is a potential inspirational energy for us to create things from. So clear out those buttons and clear out those internal capacitors that are just storing and discharging in a destructive, internal, emotional, energetic fashion. That's my invitation for today. Okay, that was our little segment on personal energy management, and an invitation to get present, really, and notice anytime you've got a sort of internal emotional buzz, discharge. Someone says something, you notice something, you hear something, you see something, boom, you feel that quick reaction, that emotional energy sort of surging within your body. It's always just interesting to get present and notice when that happens for you, and work to sort of channel that energy somewhere else. Do something physical, instead of responding or yelling or immediately reacting to it. My challenge to you, my invitation to you is to sort of calm that down, send that energy elsewhere, and notice where those buttons are in a neutral and non-judgmental way, and work to remove those capacitors, remove the capacitors and the buttons that discharge those capacitors, and be a free-flowing conduit for all of that inspirational energy that is all around us, that is everywhere in our visual field, in our auditory field. Okay, now let's jump back to the whiteboard. Okay, back to the whiteboard, folks, where I want to talk about a couple of projects that are happening in the eastern part of Canada. So here we could sketch, say, Labrador, Quebec somewhere over here, Nova Scotia is here, and Newfoundland is sort of somewhere here. So there's two projects that I've seen being announced, and one of them is the Baie du Nord, a deep water offshore oil project where they would bring in these sort of floating platform storage and offloading ships, and they would drill like 1 kilometer underwater for oil. And the numbers I've seen have this costing about $12 billion and producing about 200,000 barrels per day of oil. The other project is the EverWind project here announced in Nova Scotia, where they would install onshore and offshore wind turbines connected via grid to a fuel production facility here where they would do electrolysis, producing hydrogen and ammonia. And the numbers I've seen here are something about $6 billion, producing 1 million metric tons of hydrogen and / ammonia. I don't know which one it's going to produce exactly, but let's say it's about 1 million tons of hydrogen per year. So it's two completely different projects. One traditional offshore oil and gas extraction, and one the new green energy focused wind electricity generating green chemicals like hydrogen and ammonia that would then be shipped around the world. In future episodes, I'll work up some more detailed numbers around things like scale, cost, timeline, customer, where are these products going, who's going to use them. But for now, it's just interesting to notice these two different visions of our energy future here in Canada. Where would you put your money? Which project would you invest in? Let me know in the comments. Okay, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's Energy Sketch. We talked briefly about that idea of getting present, really, to where your internal capacitors are, those things that are storing up emotional charges and getting discharged and buzzing you destructively whenever your buttons get pressed from whatever you see or hear or experience out there. So really work to clear out those capacitors and get a free flow of energy from inspirational energy. And we talked briefly about two projects coming up in the eastern part of Canada, the Baie du Nord and the EverWind project. And in the future, we'll work up more details on those two projects and those two visions of Canada's energy future and dig a bit deeper into where we can really make a difference in the energy future for the planet. So hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Energy Sketch. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell, and take care. See you next week, Monday at 12:12 p.m. on YouTube. Toodaloo!